Hey guys, it's October 29th. We're your hosts, Doc J and JD, and we want to talk a little bit about what we love, which is Utah Jazz basketball. JD, roll that intro, my man. Hello guys, like I said, it's October 29th. We're your hosts, Doc J and JD, and you are listening or watching the Full Court Press podcast. JD, how you doing today, man?
Doing all right. I had a pretty good week, going on a business trip this week, but
nice.
Thinking about Utah Jazz basketball and got a lot to talk about with it, so I'm excited.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, JD, we were both very realistic when we looked at the Jazz last year during the offseason, and neither of us thought that they were going to make the playoffs. But I didn't think that they were going to look quite as bad as they do. So that first game, I can give them a little bit of credit. It was the Kings, but the Kings kind of embarrassed us. A good win against the Clippers, a very hard-fought win, which was shocking to me. But, I thought we were going to do a lot better against the Phoenix Suns, especially without Bradley Beal or Devin Booker on the floor. And that is just kind of not what happened. They looked tired. They looked lethargic. Granted, every single team who played on the back-to-back, those teams all lost against the teams they were playing against. Not just us, like Heat as well, a couple other teams, but still, like that blowout.
I'm not going to attribute it to being tired. It seems like they don't care, quite frankly.
Yeah, I think when I'm looking at this Utah Jazz team, I see a lot of frantic energy and not a lot of organization. I think that's a huge problem. Everyone's still trying to figure out who they are and what they're doing and who's going to play this role, who's playing that role, and I get it. Like the only guy who's been on this team for longer than a year is Jordan Clarkson now. And continuity is important, but still, like, we're just not looking hot whatsoever. And I'm kind of worried about Will Hardy, honestly, too. And the question I want to propose, man, is Will Hardy really ready to be a head coach right now? What do you think?
Here's the thing.
Talk to me.
He has a rebuilding team to deal with. You can't expect the team to be good. But there are certain aspects of an organization, of a team, that you can look at and be like, well, this is coaching. This is probably on the coach. Or, you can probably attribute other things to the players. Well, he just doesn't have a good team around him. Things like that. There's a ton of proponents, that you could look at. And we kind of spoke a little bit about this before the pod, Doc. But, if you think about it, like his first year, he looked great. He had a team that nobody expected to do absolutely anything, probably be one of the bottom 3 teams in the NBA. He had that team in the first seed within the first 10 to 15 games. And I think it was all attributed to coaching. I think that we had a good set of players, but he was able to have them mesh well. He was having Lauri do a bunch of, movement with screens. We had Conley, who was a floor general, but really it was in the coaching. And I've even heard some stuff from different coaches around the NBA saying things like Hardy, he was doing different things in his system that made it hard for these players to, be guarded. They were constantly moving, constantly trying to go for, off-screen things. And so it was really nice. But the thing is this year is really come down to earth. And if I'm being totally honest, they finished around where people probably projected they might finish, so it's like he had a hot start, but I'm not going to give him the satisfaction of being, oh, you're the coach of the year, which there's a lot of things that go into that. we did have a ton of players traded at All-Star break, which probably attributed to the fact that the Jazz weren't nearly as good as they were before. You know, a little bit of Danny Ainge coming in and making things a little bit tougher. But I'm not happy with Hardy right now. And like, I mean, I could go on and on. What do you think, Doc?
You know, I think it's hard for him to continue to try to build on the culture he created last year. And I'm not sure why that is. But I can tell you this, I know that locker room misses Mike Conley's presence, because he's not just a good player, but he has a fantastic locker room presence. And these guys just look lost. And not just them, man. Like Will Hardy kind of looks lost. And that is what scares me. I don't want to see my coach sitting on the sidelines kind of looking like he doesn't know what to do next. And that's kind of what scares me, because I like Will Hardy. But dang, man, like we just look really poor right now. And I just think there's a huge lack of organization within our team. And I think that needs to be addressed as soon as possible. And Will Hardy is going to have to start to implement some changes if we're going to find any level of success. So yeah. I don't know if he's ready, to be honest.
I think
I know
honestly,
it's a cop out, but
this is insane to say. And I think that maybe some fans think that I might be overreacting, but like the Jazz just look lazy. They look like they're not going for plays. We're making people like Eric Gordon and Harrison Barnes look like superstars. Like they're making all of these 3-pointers. It's not because they're like the most incredible player out on the court. It's because they're left wide open. And that is Will Hardy's system. It's his fault. You know, like if the players are being lazy, there's a sense of accountability on the coach. He needs to get in there, lock them in a gym or something and say, hey, you have to play more aggressive. You have to make your free throws. You have to do this. Like he just stands on the sideline and sits there. It's like, it makes me mad. Like I wish that we had a veteran coach for the Jazz, you know, somebody who's been around for like 5-10 years, who knows what they're doing. And, you know, I'm not going to expect the Jazz to have an incredible record even with that coach, but I want to see them at least trying. He has this weird system where he has 4 or 5 guards that are each playing like 20 minutes. Like we've got Ochai Agbaji playing 20 minutes, Sexton's playing 20 to 25, THT's playing 20 to 25, Keontae George, you got Clarkson that's playing, you know, around the 30s, but it's just like this is inconsistent for all of these players. They can't get in a rhythm. They don't really know what they're doing because they don't have enough time to really develop. It's like you need to develop an identity for this team.
Yes.
Like they do not have an identity. And this is the first 3 games. There's a sense of bias there, but it's just like, this is the reality. They look like this in the preseason too. They just like, this is insanity to me. It's like, they don't have an identity. They don't have a leader. That's a bit of coaching. That's maybe a bit of like, we just don't have a leader on the court, but still it's just like, that's on Hardy in my opinion.
I agree with you, man. Last year, Hardy was able to unite all these guys, and every single night they played hard. And that's what I liked about them. I didn't care if we lost whatsoever because we fought tooth and nail like every single game was game 7 of the finals. That same energy is non-existent this year. It's not there. Everyone's fumbling around. No one's playing defense. How many open threes did we give to the Kings?
It's insane.
It was ridiculous.
It is insane.
Guys just sitting out there on an
They took 50 threes. And we only took like 25 or something.
Jeez, man. And that's what
we gave them way too many opportunities.
Everyone. Like it seems like no one knows how to play defense on this team. And it scared me a little bit. Like I want us to come out the gate. Like, look, win or lose, if you play and leave everything on the court, I can take losses in stride. Not this lazy, lackadaisical nature that's been going on. It just does not look good.
Yeah. I mean, real fast. I want to rip into it a little bit more. It's like upsetting to me. The fact that like we don't have an identity, that we're playing all of these guys something like 20 minutes or whatever. The issue with that too is like we have somebody like Keontae George who has shown that he deserves to be on the court. And granted, like I'll give this to Hardy. He's playing him 20 minutes, you know, or so. That's nice. You know, he needs the development. And like he probably shouldn't be starting right now, day 1. but he's incredible, like, and this is biased too. Like, I know that maybe people outside of the organization or Utah fans, they see that Keontae can be good, has something, but like, I think just right out the gate, he's looked good. And the thing with that is like, what Hardy wants to do is he wants to be trying to win right now, like that's his whole thing in training camp. He's like, this is going to be a Hunger Games for a lot of these players. They're trying to fight for their position. And I guess, that can be good. It has its pros and cons. Like, it means that you're going to be fighting really for your spot. You're going to be trying your hardest. But at the same time, it comes as an issue too. Like, look at Kessler. Kessler, these first 3 or 4 games, he's only played 20 minutes. Are we to believe that the guy who was one of the runner-up rookies of the year is just like having a terrible second year? I think it has to be attributed to Hardy in a certain way. And like, he's only getting 20 minutes. And like, the thing that I don't like about it too, Doc, is with that, it's like, we should have an identity. Okay, are we going to really try and make the playoffs with this squad? If so, playing all our best players, is that really going to benefit us down the road? Like, look at George. Let's say Keontae George has 15 minutes for the rest of the season. Is that really good? Like, are we really so focused on winning basketball today when we're not going to be a contender today? Or should we be focused on, let's develop the guys who are going to be our future contender, our future contender players for the years to come, by maybe having George have the most minutes out of all of these guards, by maybe having Kessler develop and have his ups and downs instead of just benching him. You know what I mean? It's just like, we're not going to be making like, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs.
Kessler, man.
It's it's unreal. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think he's way too hard on Kessler for no reason, man. Like, he's not making him any better at the moment. Like, and I agree with you. Get these kids out there and let them play. And this is something we've talked about before. This roster, while it has athleticism, length, and a depth, really with their talent, there's too much of it. That's kind of the problem. Like, why are we re-signing Chris Dunn to another, 2 years or something? Like, what are we doing here? Like, why did we guarantee Lucas Samanik and he's not even playing? Like that, I don't understand what's going on here. It's kind of ridiculous, man. But what I want to see is, and if I was coaching the Utah Jazz, I'm not a coach, everyone. We all know that. But, I would put Kessler out there, let these guys play more than 20 minutes, like what you're saying, man. And you know what? Like Keontae George, he should be starting for us. Like, I don't think that's a hot take, and I don't care if it is or not. He should be starting. He's the best point guard on this team. Help him facilitate ball movement. Let him organize our offense. Let's get Clarkson going. Clarkson never looks lost, okay? Clarkson never looks lost, and he looks lost out there. That, to me, is a huge red flag, and it really makes me worry. And something else that I really want to see happen, I want to pivot a little bit now, is I want to see more Lauri Markkanen. I'm not getting enough Lauri Markkanen. And I think the reason is because everyone is so frantic. No one knows what they're doing. Everyone's kind of up here fidgeting, and then no one's guarding on defense. There's a bunch of chaos going on right now in the Utah Jazz's, not locker room, but at least on the court. And that makes me wonder, how is Lauri Markkanen supposed to develop into a number one option if we're not providing him with the minutes that he needs and the team he needs around him?
Well, can he be a true number one option, do you think, Doc?
I do. I just think that he needs to develop a few more parts of his game. So he's not surprising anyone this year. Everyone knows that Lauri Markkanen can come out and get you 25 and 9. He's not going to get any easy buckets moving forward the rest of his career. He's going to have to learn how to work on some ISO plays. He's going to have to, his shooting so far hasn't been too bad, honestly. His preseason numbers were really scary. But since then, he's really picked it up. He's starting to look like he's getting a rhythm again. I just don't think he's getting the ball enough. And I want to see this guy, like this play that we just showed right there. Lauri Markkanen gets downhill really, really well for a guy his size. It's not like to the level of Giannis, but for being a 7-footer, this guy can move. He's explosive. Look at him again. He knows how to pick his shots. He's honestly an elite shooter. He really is. And I think that he's going to be able to replicate those numbers of 50, 40, possibly 90 on free throws. We just have to give him the opportunity. But for that to happen, he has to have the right team around him. I think John Collins was a good pickup. But I mean, where's our ball facilitation? This was a point we made last year too. When we traded Mike Conley, I remember you and I talking, we might have talked about it on the pod. We said, the majority of Lauri's points comes from assisted buckets. And we were worried, okay, well, once we lose Mike Conley, who's going to be feeding this dude the ball? Lo and behold, look what's happening. Do you know what I mean? He had a great game against the Clippers, but he did not look good against the Kings or the Suns. Like, he's so much better than a 19 and 10 kind of player. Like, he's way better than that. But we're just not giving him that opportunity. But full circle, I totally think he can be a number one option. What do you think?
Well, here's the thing.
Lay it on.
I love Lauri, and I think he's incredible. Do I think he can be a number one option on a championship contender? As of right now, I don't. Could he develop into one? I mean, I don't think either of us are saying, hey, he's a number one option right now for a championship contender.
No.
But can he develop? I mean, I think every NBA player could develop into something special.
That's true.
I think you have to read into, okay, look at this guy, look at what he does right now. Can he take a next step? I don't know. I think that he's really good, but it seems like the real way that this guy can score is if somebody is facilitating to him or setting up his shots,
Yes.
And that's something that I've really liked about Hardy. I know we ragged on him, but like, he's given full reins to Markkanen.
We gave fair criticism. That was not ragging. I think our criticism is justified of Will Hardy. But continue.
I agree with that. But something I do like that Hardy has done for Markkanen is he's given him the opportunity to get some points. Realize that this guy is the number one option for this team, and so there's a ton of screens set for him. Like a ton of pick and roll set for him, so he can just like get down and try and score. Or get those threes. But what I think in a number one option, when I'm thinking of one like a superstar, is like crunch time, one-on-one, he can score the ball. Or like he's the type of guy that can just like, he doesn't necessarily need all this facilitation to be a superstar. Yes. And I just don't see that from him right now. I don't know if he's going to develop that, but I mean, if you look at him 1 or 2 years ago, maybe you wouldn't think that he's become what he is today. So we'll still have to see.
Yeah, he's going to have to develop into a guy who 5 minutes down the stretch, when we call timeout, we could just be like, okay, give it to Lauri. Let him do his thing. Much like you do with Donovan Mitchell, LeBron James, Steph Curry, excuse me. Steph is a great player, though. Luka Doncic, Jason Tatum. The list goes on. Kevin Durant.
These are guys that can ISO and score.
Yes.
They can take over games.
Yes, and that has to be the next development stage for Lauri. He has to be able to just be like, give me the ball and let me do my thing. Even Giannis can do it. That's why they created the wall with defense, is because when Giannis gets downhill, it doesn't matter who you are. You're probably not stopping him,
Well, can I ask you something, Doc?
Yes.
How long do you think it's going to take, if you think he can develop into this true number one option for like a championship team? How long do you think this will take him?
To get to the point of that development peak?
Yep.
I would assume that as long as he is with the right trainers, like if he gets with Chris Brickley in the offseason, okay? I don't know how long his military service is supposed to last. I don't know if it's just 2 years or what. But if he gets with a guy like that, I could see him developing really quickly, because Donovan Mitchell works with Chris Brickley. And what's the truth about Donovan Mitchell? Every single year he comes back, he's better. He's always better at something. Always. I mean, he scored 71 points last year. So like, I think that if Lauri can get with a guy like that and be like, this is what I want to develop, and he just grinds it out, give him like 2 off seasons, man, and he could be there. He could definitely be that guy. Heck, maybe even in 1, man, honestly, as long as he has the right trainers around him. And like I said, I don't know how long his military service for Finland is supposed to last, but I am so proud of him for that, Larry. Good job, man. I love that about you. I'm a vet myself, so I love seeing that. Good for you. But as long as he has the time in the off season to develop, like, he just has to make sure he does it. I think maybe a year or 2, depending on his military service. What about you? What do you think?
I think right now he's probably considered a 25 to 30 top 30 player.
Yeah.
For him to be a true number 1 option, if you want to win it all in the NBA, I think you have to have a top 10 player.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's going to be able to show that unless they make the playoffs and he does well in the playoffs. And then that's when his ranking will truly rise. And so we will have to wait and see. I don't think the Jazz will make the postseason this year. Might take them another year, and it's weird. Their timeline's a little weird, a little janky to me, because they're trying to develop these young guys like Ochai Agbaji, like Keontae George, Taylor Hendricks, their 9th pick. We still have to see. Bryce Sensabaugh, who looked good in college. Like, if they want to work with those guys, if you want to win a championship and they have to be a pivotal piece, like, it's going to take them some time, like, they need to have their own playoff experience. They need at least 3 or 4 years for them to be like major contributors in my eyes, unless you have like Jokic on your team. So
true that. All right, guys, this was just a little quick segment for you, but thank you so much for listening. You guys know the channel does not grow without you. We love you guys so much. Comment, good or bad. We love all the comments because we know you guys are passionate about basketball just like we are. So this is Doc J and JD signing off. We'll catch you guys next time.